Alright, so this video is about how to determine the formula for a salt, and what I'll do is I will run over basically how to predict from a given acid what the salt is that's made. So firstly, let's have a look at what a salt is. So a salt consists of a positive ion, which is typically a metal, but it can be other things as well. We do have positive ions, which are groups of non-metals, but that's a very rare case. And also a negative ion, which is typically a non-metal atom or group of atoms. A group of non-metal atoms. So that's what a salt is, and typically these are made in reactions between acids and metals or some metal salts. So let's have a look at what acids you're expected to know about. So if we look at my list, here's my list: hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid and nitric acid. Now hydrochloric acid will give you the ending to your salt of chloride. Alright, so if we react hydrochloric acid with sodium, we end up with the salt sodium chloride. If I react sodium, for example, with sulfuric acid, then I make a sulfate. And if I react it with nitric acid, then I make a nitrate. Okay, so that enables us to predict what the name of our salt will be given a particular metal ion that we know is present in the reaction. So let's have a look at some examples of different salts. So first off, here is sodium chloride, and in order to generate a formula, it's best to look at your table of ions. Okay, so sodium chloride, let's have a look at the table of ions and let's find sodium. So if we look very carefully here, beg your pardon, if I look very carefully, here is the sodium ion here, so it's Na+, Na+. So we're now going to go over, look at our sodium chloride. Our sodium chloride, we know our metal ion is Na+. Now, if we do the same thing for the negative ion chloride, and we have a look, we can see here's chloride here, Cl-. So let's go back over and look at that, put that in. So we know that we have two ions here. We've got a positive ion sodium Na+, and our negative ion Cl-. Okay, so what we need to remember is that the charges on our positive and our negative ion, the charges have to add up to equal 0. So here I've got +1, here I've got -1, and we should be able to see if we add those together, we end up with 0. So what that means in terms of our formula is that our formula for the salt sodium chloride is NaCl. Okay, if we do the same with aluminium chloride, I'll run through this a little bit quicker. So aluminium chloride, look at my table of ions. I'm going to find aluminium. So aluminium is here. There's aluminium, Al3+, and if I go back, I'm looking for aluminium chloride. So chloride we already know from the previous example is Cl minus, so Al3 plus Cl minus. Now we need these again to add up to 0. So there's a number of things that I can do. I can either look at these and look at the charges. A quick tip is take the number here and move it down here. Take the number here, well there isn't one, so we don't need to do anything. So the formula of this becomes Al Cl 3. Alright, that's the formula for aluminium chloride. Now magnesium nitrate, if I do the same thing there, I go over to my table of ions. Here's magnesium here, Mg2+, and nitrate. Now nitrate isn't in this table, and the reason it's not in this table is because it's a polyatomic ion, which means there are lots of atoms in the ion. So here's our polyatomic ions here, and here is nitrate. That's NO3 minus. Okay, so let's go back over. Oh, magnesium nitrate, okay. So, magnesium we found was Mg2+, nitrate was NO3 minus. Now I can do the same thing again. I can take the numbers, so I take this number and I put it there. There's no number for nitrate, so I don't really need to do anything with it. And I can then write out my formula. So here's magnesium, here's nitrate, and I need 2 of the nitrate. Now you'll notice that it looks a little bit confusing. It looks like we might have 32 oxygens. So in order to reduce any confusion there, the polyatomic ion was NO3. So if I put a bracket around what our polyatomic ion is and put the number outside, that tells us that we need 2 lots of everything that's inside the brackets. So that's magnesium nitrate. One final example, which is up here, sodium sulfate. So sodium is Na+, whoops, Na+. Sulfate, if I look at my table down here, sulfate is also a polyatomic ion. Here's sulfate. So if I go back up, right, here's sodium sulfate. Sulfate is SO4 2-. I'm going to do the same thing again. I take the number here, I put it here. There's no number here, so I don't need to worry about it. So the formula for sodium sulfate is Na2SO4. And notice there's no brackets around this one this time because there's only one of them. Okay? So that's how we go about determining the formula for a salt.